Talking labour matters now, this year's May Day commemorations once again highlight the worsening plight of the Nigerian worker, who is beset by a number of things, including poor remuneration, absence of job protection arising from weak, outdated and dysfunctional labour laws, and a glaring lack of will to enforce existing labour laws by relevant authorities. Exactly what will they be left celebrating when all the days march past, other observances are concluded?
They are too serious now.
Joining us now to have a conversation around those issues raised is Teju Abisoye, who is Executive Secretary of Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. Welcome to the program. It's good to have you with us.
Good to be here.
All right, you've heard the intro as well. It's Workers' Day, but do we have cause to celebrate in Nigeria, you think?
I think it's still important that we commemorate Workers' Day, that we celebrate both our wins and then discuss our challenges. It still represents an opportunity for that to happen. So how do we create more? For me, May Day is also around advocacy, the things we want to see happen in the workplace. We shouldn't just just gloss over the issues and the things we want to see happen in the work environment. May Day definitely is one to improve things around inclusiveness, gender parity at the workplace. So many things that we need to focus on May Day, but also celebrate the wins. One for me is the minimum wage law. What are those other things that we literally can say, look, we're making progress on? Let's recognize that, but then have discussions and fight for those other things that we want to see happen in the work environment.
I don't want to be a wet blanket, but I'm going to go straight to the challenges. Celebration mode is over now, so I'm going to talk to you about, the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. We understand that the Lagos State government said it committed over 10 billion to boost employment in the last 3 years. Can you give us an outlook on how that's been?
So to date, we've been capitalized to over 15 billion to address youth unemployment by making sure that we actually support entrepreneurship, youth employment, employability, and make sure that people get to work, especially even increasing productivity for young people in Lagos State. So we don't want low-paying jobs. We also want people to be in good jobs, quality jobs they get adequate pay for their jobs. So we're doing a lot around supporting businesses, micro, small, and medium enterprises. We've supported over 40,000 to date with access to finance, capacity development, master classes, things that help to increase productivity. We hope they can employ more people. Even as we're seeing the economy growing, we're hoping that a lot can happen for the small businesses. We continue to train people as well to take up jobs that are available in the market. So we go on an approach of a supply and demand. So what is the industry looking for? We hold focus group discussions with industry players, and then we train people in partnership with the UNDP, GIZ, the United States Africa Development Foundation, and more recently, Skills for Prosperity of the FCDO UK. So the idea is, how do we make sure that while businesses are growing or even starting, do they have the right people that can work for them? And we support this by making sure people are trained. We've trained over 12,000 people to date in this program. And then with technology, innovation, we're always promoting this. We support this with talent. We support it with access to infrastructure. And we also support it with matchmaking for investors. So we're very deliberate in how we support the ecosystem to make sure jobs are created in Lagos State.
Still talking about the issue of jobs, and particularly on your portfolio with the Lagos State government in tackling unemployment issues. You've highlighted some of the input so far by them, but what are the main challenges here?
Where do you start, right?
No, I think there are a lot, but I also think it also presents the opportunity to make sure we're solving for this. One you can say is, for businesses to grow, they need access to finance. Another is employability. We have issues where people have degrees, but they're not the jobs that are in the market. And I think, changing the mindset around blue-collar jobs and white-collar jobs, everybody wanting to be a graduate, but there's dignity in labor. And all these things are things that we can address, not just as a government, but also as the private sector. I think when people understand that a job, the reality why you want a job is so that you can meet your livelihoods, your economic improvements. Not necessarily that I have to be in court every day, I have to be a lawyer. How do I make sure that I'm training myself to be able to take up a job that is available in the market? I think I would highlight 3 things, but I think there's still a lot more also around, even where today we match people to jobs and they say they can't take it. I had a conversation on Friday. Somebody we had trained, somebody was looking for somebody. We said, would you take the job? No. And they claim they've never worked. So there are honestly many issues. And there are jobs in the market. There are jobs. They're not enough. We recognize that. But also making sure that people have the right skills to take up this job is also very important.
Well, I must commend the efforts that you've made, in addressing unemployment, but it's still on a steady increase. And according to the Commissioner for Physical Planning and Budget, who was present at your summit that took place on March the 2nd, he said that it's because a lot of Nigerians keep on migrating to Lagos, for instance, to Lagos specifically. That's why the unemployment rate in Lagos is going up. Now, I understand that you're saying that there are jobs and whatnot, but what other challenges are contributing to the high unemployment rate besides the migration of Nigerians to Lagos for greener pastures?
I'll say the other thing that happened there were a lot of underemployed people. So they were just employed for perhaps 8 hours a day, but now they've moved into the full bucket of unemployment. And that's because those daily paid, those jobs are not easily available for them at the moment. And I think that's another thing that is contributing to that rise. I think one thing that is clear also to us is that there's honestly the issue of the right skills. Matching people to the right jobs. People coming out of university and wanting jobs that are not available. How do we, I give this example a lot. We graduate more lawyers than we need in the market.
There you go.
But we don't graduate enough doctors that we need in the market.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth.
So how do we make sure that our interventions are targeted at solving those skills that are very much required in the ecosystem? How do we make sure people are getting the right technology skills, digital skills? Look, I'll tell you one other thing we found is people want to apply for our loans, but they don't even know how to apply online. How are we solving for digital knowledge? How are we solving for that uptake? Because when you look at it from the angle that if people take up digital skills, they have access to a global market, not just the Nigerian market. How do we solve for access to infrastructure for young businesses? So startup tools, for example, are not easy to come by. People don't have the necessary credit history to actually start their own business. But if we make access to infrastructure available for micro, small, nano businesses, so you get a training as a hairdresser, but you don't need to start up your salon the very first day. Why don't you rent a space where somebody's already providing access to everything you need to run that salon? And the training, the mentoring, the hand-holding is still continuing. There are many things that, like I said, for me, every challenge actually represents an opportunity for us to solve. I just wish that we could do a lot more, we could ramp it up much faster, so that we can actually see these numbers go down quickly, for everybody. Because we're sitting on a time bomb if we don't do that.
All right, still on the spirit of the celebration, Nigeria currently, we have this high inflationary trends at the moment, and going back to the minimum wage issue, some state governments are still finding it difficult to implement this. And with current, socioeconomic scenarios, wouldn't that have made a mockery of what has been done before and what we're still having now, for the workers? Shouldn't they have a better deal?
We say something then, look, the entire macroeconomic environment is the big picture. We can't leave it in silos, and we have to honestly address those issues. So as a government, I recently saw something like, the economy of the world is not only shifting from GDP, but more now to equities. How are we attracting foreign direct investment? How are we improving the ease of doing business for both micro, big, small business, international businesses coming into the market? There's a lot to be done. There's a lot to enforce as well. So even today, yes, you have a minimum wage, how are we enforcing it? How are we making sure that nobody is cheating their workers? And I say this not just from a government perspective, but when as a private sector, when we employ people, whether domestic workers or not, are we paying minimum wage? And how can we make sure we enforce this?
Well, I have one more question for you, and we're pressed for time. The theme of your last summit was sustainable job creation strategies, and it was also disclosed that the revised 30-year development plan would soon be unveiled. Has that happened? And if it hasn't, when should we expect it?
Okay, so that's above my pay grade. Okay, it's the Commissioner of Economic Planning and Budgeting who is handling that, but I know that we have been looking at that. We've all been revising and also tracking in terms of where we are with the development plan and all our deliverables, even for this year.
Indeed. Teju Abisoye, Executive Secretary of Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.